It's a perfect segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is, for anyone listening, I would encourage you, whether it's now or later, to go to Emi's website and look at Emi Gal. So that's emigal.com/challenges. And one of the things that you've done since 2008, so for 14 plus years now, is you've done a yearly challenge and you've documented all those on your website. And I'm just going to quickly read a little bit of copy because I think it does a great job of kind of framing up what it is. This is copy from your website. Outside work, I enjoy spending time with my wife and learning new things. To address the latter, I've taken on a new challenge every year since 2008. Some of the most challenging and interesting ones were sleeping 2.5 hours per day for 2 months, which sounds brutal. So that's
Yep.
polyphasic sleep. And then, reading a book per week and training my memory with a world memory champion. I'm going to ask a couple of questions about a few of the particular challenges, but just to start, talk a little about why you decided to do these and what the experience has been like to choose one of these each year.
Yeah, it actually started very much as a joke. Back in 2008, a friend of mine, I was still living in Romania. I moved to the UK in 2009. And a friend of mine came to me and was like, hey, I want to try this thing. It's called polyphasic sleeping. I've read about it. It sounds amazing. We could basically have 22 hours of productive time a day. And the way you do it is you sleep for an hour and a half during the night, and then you sleep for 20 minutes every 6 hours. And apparently in history, there have been some, Benjamin Franklin was a famous polyphasic sleeper. There's some kind of anecdotal evidence that Einstein might have been a polyphasic sleeper. And these are people who slept very, very little at different intervals during the day. So I tried it with this friend of mine. We did it together, and it didn't work. Like, it was brutal. For about a month, we basically got no sleep whatsoever, because think about it, your brain is used to sleep 7-8 hours. So it takes you like 20 minutes to fall asleep on a good evening. We would put our head down to fall asleep. It would take us like an hour to fall asleep. And then a half hour later, we'd have to wake up. And then we'd put our head down, 6 hours later to sleep for 20 minutes. And we couldn't fall asleep in 20 minutes. And so it was a brutal month. Second month started getting better, but it wasn't, I was like a walking zombie. It's just like, I wasn't getting the 22 hours of productive time that I wanted. However, I really enjoyed the attempt at something really challenging for the body. I used to drink a lot of coffee. I used to smoke back then, and to do this experiment, I quit both, and then I didn't take up smoking again. So I saw some very clear benefits from running this experiment, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to continue. So since then, every single year, I've run an experiment, and they've been wide-ranging and incredibly fun.
Yeah, they've been all over the map. I mean, so you talked about, polyphasic sleep. There's reading a book per week. There's training my memory. There's also some amazing ones I want to ask some follow-up questions on shortly, like, interviewing elderly people and ask them a set of 10 questions about life and then posting that on your blog. One of the questions I wanted to ask is, so you've done a lot of these. If you had to recommend a single challenge to people listening, whether it's something to think about, something to attempt, even for a short period of time, is there one that you would recommend to others or recommend the most?
I think I would say two have made the biggest impact on my life. And you'll see there are obvious ones once I mention them, but I think it's really important that I do. The first one is, I had an experiment where I started working out. This was like in my late 20s, I want to say. And my goal was to work out every day for a year. And I think I worked out 6 days a week for a year. And what that did is it got me into this habit of working out. And that's been quite great. The other experiment that has made a huge impact was reading a book a week. I now, every weekend, sit down and spend 6-7 hours and read a book cover to cover. And I have the focus, the ability to just go in and finish a book in one sitting, almost no matter how thick it is. So I can probably take a 700-page book and push through it in a single day. And having that ability means that I consume a lot of books. And I think consuming books is one of the best ways we have as a species to better ourselves.
Yeah, that's well said. Is there anything that you learned? I just imagine. So obviously, you're reading a book a week. You are training things. You're training your ability to focus for a long period of time. You're training your ability to just sit and just read and not get off track. Besides that, was there anything practical about the way that you approached it that was unique? Meaning, like, did you read at a certain time per day? For someone listening that say, okay, that's amazing, I want to try to read a book a week. Any advice you'd give them, tips or just little hacks?
Yeah, by far the biggest hack is read stuff you like. Like I have zero FOMO about starting a book, 20 pages in, it's not for me, or maybe not for me right now. I just put it down and I pick up another book. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I've started reading a book, I'm invested into this book, I've heard great things about it, I'm just gonna try to read it. For me, it's like, you know what, if I'm not interested in that topic or that story right then, I'm just gonna like put it on the side, pick another book, and then maybe come back to that book at a different time when I might enjoy it more. That's made the biggest impact by far in how many books I
Yeah,
consume.
because then you just actually want to read every time you actually sit down to read. Then there's no pressure. You can stop at any point in time.
You have to want to enjoy it, right? Otherwise, you're not going to want to do it consistently. You might do it like you did it in school. You have to push through this, but you wouldn't look forward to those 7 hours of reading. And I always look forward to those 7 hours of reading.
I mean, that's one of the most under-discussed parts of just habit formation is like find a way to just do stuff you like and then find ways to enjoy it more and then find ways to not do what you don't want to like. It's actually somewhat simplistic, at least in some of those areas.
And actually, a kind of a corollary to this that I learned in the experiment when I was working out was working out every day for 7 days a week is actually really, really hard. I don't know how many people have tried it, but it's not easy. And I struggled with it for a fair amount of time. And then the kind of tiny habit that ended up working for me the best was if I would wake up in the morning and didn't feel like working out, what I would do is I would put my running shoes on. And I'd be like, if I don't feel like working out after this, I'm going to take them off, have a coffee, go on with my day. But obviously, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, I have my running shoes on. I may as well just go out and work out. So I think that's very applicable to books too. Like just read the first 5 pages, you know, and you'll notice that if it's something that you like, those 5 pages will turn to 50 and 100 and 500 before you know it, you've read the book. At least that's what happens to me.
Yeah, it's like eliminating friction and eliminating excuses to not go and do it.
Exactly.